Hey there, it's Strawberry555, and I've watched every single episode of Hamster and Gretel Season 1. This video will be my full and complete review. The rest of the video will be audio only, so feel free to sit back and relax. But just one quick thought before we get into talking about each individual episode is I very much did enjoy the season. I really am looking forward towards Season 2 and how they're going to develop the ongoing story that they do have, very much like Mammoth's are, so I hope they do continue that trend and Disney doesn't, well, be Disney and cancel a good show. I don't think they will, but you never know, because Disney has a bad track record of not treating their well-performing shows well, except for Phineas and Ferb. Why? I don't know, but this review is about Hamster and Gretel, not about all that other stuff. That should be a different video though. But in the meantime, enjoy my review. So I finally gotten around to watching Hamster and Gretel, created by Dan Povenmire. In case you don't know, he's the same creator behind Phineas and Ferb and Mammoth's Are. So those shows he did work with Jeff Swampy Marsh. He's not. I think he will voice a character in the show if I remember reading the voice actor list, but he's not involved in the creation show, so this is strictly a Dan Povenmire show. So I just thought I would make sure you guys are all aware of the creators and all that. And also the main character is voiced by Dan's daughter Melly, so that's pretty unique, not unique, but pretty interesting to take note of. So this episode, you can definitely tell it's the same vein as Phineas and Ferb and Mammoth's Are. Makes sense. The creator also worked on those shows very much. So, of course, it makes sense. And the first episode is basically the setup, We have, we have everything going on. We have Gretel and Hamster getting the powers. Then, of course, we have Gretel's older brother of Kevin. And, of course, he doesn't get powers, but he ends up as the episode goes, it does show that there is the word I'm looking for, while he doesn't have any superpowers, he still is very beneficial because, he actually thinks things through, unlike Gretel, who is a bit more, act first, think later, or act first, hope for the best, which is very much the plot of the second part of episode 1. So the first part, so 1A was empower failure, and the second part was Oakey Dokey. And I have to say, Gretel hasn't quite learned her lesson yet that she can't always punch everything first and hope for the best, which is something Kevin is aware of. But at least she's able to, in most cases, because of her superpowers, fixes it when things do go wrong. But those are the only 2 episodes that I've watched so far, so we gotta wait to see if she'll learn that lesson or not. But it's very much note. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff going on, and of course at the very end, the aliens that gave Hamster and Gretel their superpowers and told them to use it to good, give their powers to 2 other random people and tell them to use it for evil, which is just hilarious. Oh, and one of those aliens is definitely voiced by Dan Povenmire without a doubt, so I did appreciate that. I don't know if he voices any other characters, I don't recall. I read through the cast list and all that, but do I remember everything? No, I don't. But overall, I did certainly enjoy the first episodes, part 1A and 1B, of course. So definitely looks like this could be a little bit of a serialized story, so more in the vein of Mammoth's Are in terms of storytelling than Phineas and Ferb, which you know what, I'm happy with. Now the question is, it would be fully serialized or semi-serialized? Because there's different ways you can approach serialization and having an ongoing story. You can have it, events of the previous episode impact the next episode, but there's no overarching story between them except for on rare occasions, or is it going to be more like other shows where, everything is interconnected, because shows like Arthouse, Amphibia, DuckTales, sure, they may have their serialized episode, you may have a one-off episode here and there, but everything in the previous episodes build on to tell one complete story, while other shows, like Phineas and Ferb, are totally non-serialized at all and there's no overarching story. I think this might be kind of going the middle route, so probably a bit closer to Mammoth's Are, but we just gotta wait and see on that. But those are just my thoughts on the first episode of Hamster and Gretel. I hope to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. So I just finished watching episode 2 of Hamster and Gretel. Those 2 episodes, 2A being Recipe for Disaster, and 2B being Math Punch. So Okay, obviously both of these songs do feature songs. I have a feeling songs just like in Phantom Phobia Mammoth Result will be a major part of each episode. But the first thing I really would like to address about Recipe for Disaster is how it's basically a family story about, what's important in the family, doing things as a family, which, makes a lot of sense. That's generally what makes a good family, family bonding, family experience, even if, at times it can be a bit much and you may feel a little bit embarrassed and all that. Kind of makes me think a little bit of the I'm Your Mother show to Star Wars Visions Volume 2. But I really wanted to talk about the second one, so 2B being Math Punch, where Gretel does not want to do math homework, because also they're specifically using word problems, which are, the worst math questions. Ends up she has to save her brother, Kevin, by doing a math equation involving a train, because they have a joke, why does it always involve a train? Well, apparently in this case, in a real life, still cartoon, in a cartoon life word problem, it did involve a train traveling 60 miles per hour. You have to, and at what point should I go through the question? Nah. But math is important. It just is. Even if you don't use it all the time, you still need to know the basics. But yeah. And of course with a lightning-themed cowboy villain. Yeah. Lightning powers and everything. And it's just hilarious how he's just basically anti-technology, and at the end he's like, maybe I should get a phone. It's like, because he learned that the phones have GPS, and apparently that's what made him change his mind. Crazy, but obviously, while this show does riff a little bit on the superhero genre, it's more of a riff on it rather than actually doing it, because, in serious superhero stories, the superhero or the superhero's villain, so the villain probably wouldn't have a change of heart like that. But at the same time, I think this is better because it's a little more realistic. Like sometimes people, they just have a real, idea on what things should be, and sometimes they just need something to open their eye, such as, oh, hey, that's something that could be useful, and sometimes that's all it takes. But overall, I did think episode 2 was pretty enjoyable. I did have to pause several times to laugh while watching Recipe for Disaster, just because there was some pretty good funny scenes and I just had to stop and laugh. And sometimes I was laughing because I knew what was going to happen and I was pre-laughing. It's fun to pre-laugh, but at the same time it's kind of frustrating because I know what's going to happen. And then and that was kind of my fake laugh there, and I don't have a good fake laugh. Sounded much better if I would have been recording my actual laughing, but it's just, I do kind of like it when you have to stop and laugh, because that really does show how good of a joke or how funny that scene is. But those are just my thoughts on episode 2 of Hamster and Gretel. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. So I just finished watching Hamster and Gretel episode 3, 3A being Superhero Rivalry, and 3B being Close Shave. Of these two, I think I preferred Close Shave a bit more. I found it more enjoyable, more hilarious, if you will. Especially with the idea of, a Van Dyke, so that's a mustache and goatee, being able to control people, because he's a scientist that turns himself into a facial hair. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. And of course, a big part of the episode is, Gretel having superhero hunches and always turning out wrong, except for in this one case, where she saw her substitute teacher was evil. Turns out it was just a facial hair, but still. But what is very interesting is in the B plot, so Kevin and his cousin Fred were doing a report on Sigmund Freud, and as we know, a lot of his assumptions, if you will, or hunches about human psychology end up being wrong, as future research has proven. But I did like that little parallel right there. Oh, and Fred's the one who saves the day by using some hair removal spray to basically get the mind-controlling facial hair to stop doing what he was doing. I thought that was also hilarious. Which was set up earlier in the episode when it's revealed that Kevin has one single strand of facial hair. One tiny little strand. Can't say. I wonder if they'll have an episode where his facial looks a little bit like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. That'd be hilarious. But talking about 1A now, Superhero Rivalry. So it's actually from the ending of episode 1 that those two other randos who were given superpowers but told to use them for evil. Yep, they're back. So how they defeated, well, first they pin Hamster and Gretel down under more weight than they can actually lift, which Kevin does apparently know how much they can lift. And then he pits them against each other using Sibling Rivalry, because those are twin villains, and able to free Hamster and Gretel and all that, which is kind of funny. Not funny, but I think the one I'm looking for, which is a nice contrast to Gretel and Kevin, because they were having sibling rivalry shown throughout this episode, especially in the beginning, the montage opening, showing them being no siblings and fighting like normal. And then, yes, okay, they say, glad we don't fight like them. They were still fighting about it, about random stuff. But that does show they're siblings, but, they're good siblings because they don't let their sibling rivalry too much impact them. A little bit, but not too much. But it was quite an enjoyable episode. I would say, out of the 3 I've watched so far, this actually might be my favorite, but who knows how the future episodes will turn out. But in the meantime, let me know what your thoughts on this episode down below. So I just finished watching Hamster and Gretel episode 4, for A being Choo Choo Bang Bang, which I gotta say, made me think of Choo Choo Bang Bang just from the title, not really from the plot, but still the title. And then for B, La Ballad of la Cebolla. I'm not that great at my Spanish, but I feel like, you have every word except for the of in Spanish. Why not just make it all in Spanish? I'm just saying. But anyhow, let's actually talk about the episodes and not about the episode titles. So Choo Choo Bang Bang is basically a cheerleading episode. Cheerleaders are committing crimes. And turns out it was the coach hypnotizing them. And of course the hero of the episode is Fred. Again, just like with Coach Chave, she's the one who figures out the way of solving the mystery. That's 2 episodes in a row. Kind of interesting. But what we do find out about her, she can't smile. She doesn't like smiling. She can pretend, but she doesn't like doing it. But probably the most hilarious gag in the entire episode is the fact that at the very end, she gets out of her disguise, which is literally a cheerleader bodysuit that she was wearing over her normal clothes. Which is just hilarious. But you know what? She's actually good at doing the techniques. Just, she's not there. I don't say she's not there mentally, but rather she doesn't get enjoyment out of cheerleading or that kind of stuff. Which, given her personality, makes sense. She's a bit more cynical than some of the other characters. But also, cheerleaders are stereotypically, especially in American media, very upbeat. So it makes sense that a character who's not upbeat wouldn't be that into cheerleading. I'm just saying. But it was a pretty hilarious episode. And then, of course, for B, La Ballad of la Cebolla is basically a onion-themed supervillain who's mad that she got written off of a terrible Spanish soap opera. I'm specifically putting that in because if I remember correctly, it was Frescas de Amor. I'm not sure how to... I know that means of love, I just don't know what the first one meant. I haven't used what I learned in Spanish class in several years, so yeah, my vocabulary is es muy terrible. That's like one of the few things I can remember how to say. But yeah, so it was mainly Fred and Hamster who defeat her, not Gretel. Gretel does help, of course, but it's just kind of hilarious. But the important part of this episode is I think it will set up what might be the overarching narrative. Something to do with the aliens granting powers to random humans. And because this is the 3rd occurrence that we know for sure. Obviously, Hamster and Gretel being told to use it for good. But then we had the superhero villain twins from superhero sibling rivalry that we saw get their powers at the end of episode 1. And now here's another character who's gotten powers from the same aliens. One of which is, of course, voiced by Dan Povenmire. Why am I tripping over his name all of a sudden? I honestly don't know why that is happening now. But Dan Povenmire. So one of the aliens is voiced by him, but they mention experiment. So I do find that kind of interesting. So they're doing some kind of experimentation on humans by granting them superpowers. Interesting how this develops, but like I said, I think this is setting it up. Oh, and I forgot another thing for a Choo Choo Bang Bang. Another kind of hilarious thing is they acknowledge the, you know how in the original Batman 1960s series starring Adam West, that whenever Bantam and Robin would be punching the villains or vice versa, something like bow, bang, pow, something like that will appear on the screen so you don't actually see the punch. Well, it's somewhat like that in so far in Hamster and Gretel. Things like when Hamster is about to do a punch, a text will appear on the screen announcing her punch, something like, superhero punch or whatever it is. This is the first episode where the characters acknowledge it, so they're not just for us, the audience. These actually exist in universe. There was a few jokes in 1-2 songs that also did that, which, makes sense in the songs, but don't take everything visually in a song, as being exactly what's happening. But the characters not in the song are acknowledging these now. And literally Gretel literally says, I don't know where they come from. And then at the end of 4A, she's like, oh sorry, I left that there. What's going on with those texts? Is that going to be part of the overarching narrative somehow too? I honestly don't know. But overall, I did think this was a pretty enjoyable episode. So that's where I'm going to conclude this review. I hope to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. So I just finished watching the 5th episode of Hamster and Gretel, 5A being Comic Shop Copycat, and 5B being Neigh, It Ain't So. So, to begin with, I think these might be the funniest pair of episodes so far. 5A has Kevin, trying to get the coach to talk to his crush Hiromi, and we've been seeing her pop up several times in previous episodes as well, building up. But this is, I think, at the point where, Kevin needs to realize, maybe it would go better, he would have better luck if he stopped being so awkward and be more himself, and does seem like that's what works. Also, that's how they defeat the villain, by, trying not to be cool and just being himself. He recognizes he remembers where the villain is. So the villain of the episode, as I was trying to say there, isn't totally inspired by a comic book villain, taking his MO and ties there. It's literally CopyCat. It's the character's name, but inspired by another cat-themed super villain in some comic book. But by recognizing that, himself and being himself, he remembers the first appearance of that comic book character the villain is inspired by, and therefore they're able to figure out his weakness. Of course, Hamster and Gretel is fighting the villain, but cat-themed villain, and he's being very cruel and using cats for footballs. And the cats attack him at the end, so he gets his comeuppance. But, in the comic books, his weakness is water. Okay, well, sure, the real villain doesn't melt in water or anything like that, but you know what does happen? He has exposed wiring on his suits, and water and exposed wiring and electricity do not mix. Yeah. And then the cats attack him, so he gets his comeuppance. And then in 5B, Neigh, so Gretel's best friend Belle, who doesn't know that Gretel is a superhero persona, it's the same name, by the way, wins the contest to spend a day with the superhero Gretel, so she has to avoid as much confrontation to avoid suspicion. And of course there's a half-horse, half-man mutant who's the villain of the episode, and it's just hilarious. But it's hilarious, but there's not too much more to say, at least probably not until there's another episode where I'm going to show the fact that Gretel's best friend is obsessed with the superhero Gretel. Yeah, I have a feeling that's going to come to a head some point, and I think it'll be very interesting and dramatic episode, but that's not there yet. But I do hope you enjoyed my review. Let me know your thoughts on these on episode 5 in the comment section down below. So I've completed watching the 6th episode of Hamster and Gretel, 6A being Saturday Homecoming Fever, and 6B being Dr. Eelgood. So 6A is actually a Kevin episode. And actually this is the segment where I want to talk about the theme song, which, it's just a basic overview of everything going on, but and Kevin in a minivan. And this episode is basically him, everyone's calling him Kid with a Minivan. Basically that's like what he's known as, or guy who drives a minivan. Something along that line, but basically he's known for driving a minivan. And of course, hijinks ensue, I should say. But not too much. Of course, his cousin Fred, she's now essentially Mrs. Popular, and she does not like it. But that's not too much of going on. But basically, apparently, their high school is having a disco-themed homecoming dance, and the popular dude and Fright are nominated to be homecoming king and queen respectively. Of course, she doesn't want to do it, so she abdicates, and so the popular dude abdicates as well and runs off with the girl he has a crush on, who is presented as, a quote-unquote commoner, is the phrase he used, and they drive off in a limo. But that's just a little joke right there. But essentially, so that I'm mentioning could set up an ending joke, which will make sense once we talk a little bit more about the episode. But basically, Kevin learns how to disco dance, so that way he can hopefully present himself in a new light and get a better nickname or whatever. Basically, he doesn't want to be known for just being driving a minivan. But anyhow, the superhero twins, the supervillain twins break out of jail and decide to crash the homecoming dance and cause chaos. Well, Kevin challenges them to a dance battle to delay them for destroying the dance until Hamster and Gretel can get there to save the day. And so him and Earworm, which, in case you are unfamiliar, is his crush, and they do a dance battle and they win, so that's good. But of course the villains are villains, so they don't uphold the end of the bargain to not destroy the dance and start destroying anyhow. And of course Hamster and Gretel defeat them, and they get sent to prison by a hamster and what the one terms a haunted disco bar, which is really just Gretel in disguise. And the episode ends with Kevin driving his minivan up with the sound system in, because the sound system was destroyed during the superhero fight. And of course, then comes the ending joke where the principal is like, I think we know who our new homecoming king and queen is. So the setup is like, it's gonna be Kevin and Earworm for doing the dance battle and doing their best to save the dance. Nope, it's actually two people who just earned the most at the bake sale, which is just a hilarious joke. There's also another joke where Gretel expresses her wish that she can't wait till she's a teenager and in high school, and Hamster because ain't gonna happen, you're in a cartoon. He broke the fourth one, then he says never mind when they ask him what he just said. But that is hilarious. I do like a good fourth wall break. Also, I have to say is, what's the deal with at least one episode of every show Dan Povenmire has created where there's a disco episode? I mean, there's Disco Miniature Dancing Golfing Queen, that song in the Disco Miniature Golf episode of Phineas and Ferb. Then there's disco skating in Mallow Murphy's Law, and now the Saturday Homecoming Fever for Disco Homecoming Dance. What's the deal with all this disco? By the way, I'm pretty sure I did to a few notes from Disco Mini Golf Dancing Queen at some point in this episode. I'm pretty sure I did hear that. But anyhow, let's go on to the next episode, Dr. Eelgood, which is basically it's a Gretel episode more than anything, and her father will. Basically, it opens up with basically take your dad to school day, where the dads are all presenting what they do, and of course, and then of course the next day they shadow, and Gretel, well, she loves her father, she's kind of like, his job is not that exciting, and you can kind of tell that because right before is I forget her name, but Gretel's best friend, her father is basically a video game designer, and Gretel's father is like, don't want to be the one who follows up him, and guess who he's just after. So they're both kind of the same way, like they both know that his job is not the most glamorous, it's not the most exciting, it's not being a superhero like Gretel, if you will. But basically while he's repairing the fridge, Gretel fights the antennas, who is crazy and wants to, well, to put it simply, creates a mutant eel to get revenge on the local aquarium. It's hilarious. And the episode ends with a joke that he's not getting his deposit back. It's a good episode, but I did prefer 6A over 6B. And of course, you could also talk about Kevin's plot, where he's cleaning up the beach and hopes that him and his class can get done quickly, so he has some time to hang out with Earworm at the beach. But that's a minor part of the episode. 6A was definitely my preferred of these two parts, but those are just my thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. So I've finished watching the 7th episode of Hamster and Gretel, 7A being the opposite of smart, and 7B being birthday besties. So opposite of smart, basically, where the plot of the episode is that Kevin and Gretel's dog, Churro, becomes an internet celebrity because, apparently he's not the smartest dog, and their cousin Fred took a picture or video of him and put it on the internet, and now it's all over the place. So basically, influence. It's basically a commentary on influencing culture and how sometimes if you get too obsessed with it, you can lose sight of, the things important in life, like your familiar relationships. And that's essentially what's going on. It's a pretty generic episode. I did enjoy it. Had some good laughs and all that. But again, it was pretty simple of an episode. While both the besties is Gretel's best friend Bailey is having her birthday party, and the episode literally begins with a song, but literally I think Gretel is, based on this, I think either one or two things. Either Gretel is more excited for Bailey's birthday than her own, which I think is very much the case, or she'll be even more excited for her own birthday. But given some of the other dialogue, definitely sounds like she's more happy for her best friend's birthday than her own, which is kind of interesting. But essentially, it's just another good hijinks episode. The villain is essentially a bounce house, and again, those aliens that are bestowing powers to random people, well, they're now giving powers to inanimate objects. So in this case, it was accidental, but could it be purposeful in the future? Ooh, who knows about that? But it's just a hilarious episode. And of course, my favorite guy is actually the fact that that Gretel's present for Bailey. Kevin just wrapped in box after 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 box. Whew! I hope I got enough boxes in there. But yeah, which is just hilarious. And then one of the last gags in the episode is actually the fact that that as Hamster and Gretel, the superheroes, Hamster and Gretel saves the day, stopping the bounce house that is causing all the problems. And then, of course, everyone but Bailey sees Hamster and Gretel. So what does Gretel do? Well, she puts on her super outfit, say happy birthday to Gretel, and then puts the ice sculpture of Gretel that Bailey had apparently made, the non-superhero Gretel, right next to it, and the switches places. It is hilarious. A very good gag. I very much did enjoy both of these episodes. I think I did like Birthday Besties a bit more, but those are just my opinions. I would love to hear yours in the comment section down below. So I just finished watching the 8th episode of Hamster and Gretel, 8A being I'm Bored, and 8B being Cutie and the Beast. So the first episode, So I'm Bored, is literally Gretel says that she's bored, so she's given a task of chores to do by her mother, while Kevin and Hamster bail and end up being caught up in this superhero adventure, where the villain just dismisses Kevin because he's not Hamster and Gretel. It's a pretty good one, and Gretel gets there right at the end of the adventure because their father comes out and saying that he's bored, and so he's given the remaining chores to do. Pretty hilarious. I really did like how the episode ends. It was also good to see more of a Kevin and Hamster episode because let's be real, Gretel is kind of the main focus of the show in many regards, and then followed by Hamster. But this gives us an opportunity to see Kevin shine. And of course, speaking of Kevin, we do get a plot for him in Cutie and the Beast as well. Basically, he decides to give himself superpowers, so he builds himself basically a armored suit, and it just does not go well for him because he can't move in it. But he does saves the day by telling Hamster and Gretel that hey, the art of that rampaging the cities because it's so cute. Just put a tapestry over it, and he's the one who actually tapestry banner, so that way they don't have to see it, so they can actually take it out without being overcome by its cuteness. And of course, that was a callback to a show they were watching at the start of 8B, which was called England with Dragons, which is literally, I think, a parody of Game of Thrones, I believe. And that's what I thought it was. But it was just a good episode. I do wonder if they're going to be dressing more of the fact that, Kevin's trying to find a place he belongs in the superhero dynamic. Sure, he's the one who always comes up with the plans, but like he does not always give an ability to shine because Gretel doesn't always listen to his plans. Sometimes she does, but normally that's like the main adventure of the story, and she's run out of ideas. I feel like maybe some better communication. Who knows how that's going to develop, but that is one thing I did pick up on this episode. But those are just my thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. So I finished watching Hamster and Gretel episode 9, 9A being the Nightmarionette, and 9B being Abuelita's World. So the villain of 9A, the Nightmarionette, is literally the Nightmarionette, who basically, probably a better way of looking at it, he's not a marionette. Sure, he induces nightmares, but he's no marionette. Probably could come up with a better name, but as we can see with a lot of the villains of Hamster and Gretel, these are people with issues. And creating a super villain name is definitely one of the issues that he has. We don't know what's really his motivation besides post self-esteem, I guess? And he wants to basically have everyone else to be in fear or something like that, so he feels bad about himself. I honestly don't understand. But the point of the episode is Gretel facing her fears, which are basically things like scorpions, lobsters, anything like that. Arthropods, I believe is the technical term, with, well, kitchen appliances as heads. Yeah, weird, but then again, she is a kid. Now, we don't get, and Hamster, or his fear is simply a vacuum tube, and he's able to deal with that just by going to the pet store and asking for an apology, and it worked. Well, Gretel, immersion therapy is what they did for the first one, and for the second time comes up, well, it was a nice callback to the beginning of the episode where they're going through the old toys, and Kevin finds a sock puppet that he would use to help entertain, to play with Gretel. Mr. Grumpy, I think was his name, but regardless, brings that sock puppet back, gets basically, and the purpose of that sock puppet is to be dumb to basically cause laughter, to be humorous, so, and to help to wipe away fear, to essentially be another outlet for emotion that's much healthier, and that's how Gretel is able to overcome her fears and defeat the villain. And then, of course, Abuelita's World is their parents are off for some convention, and their Abuelita comes to babysit them, who is very strict. And so they have to, basically, once the villain starts doing the villain things of the episode, I forget the villain's name. I know, I just watched it out, you forgot. But, it's a big baby, literally a big baby, who was a former mayoral candidate who was a sole loser. Reminds me of somebody. But moving on from that, so they have to get away from her to save the day, but ends up not working out. But Abuelita does figure that Gretel has superpowers. And no, she says she's confused, she's shocked, surprised, but not mad, which is something, but it's kind of interesting. And the end of the episode, it just caused me to laugh. Basically, they ask her not to tell their parents because their parents don't know, and she says she's good at keeping secrets because their mother doesn't know that she used to be a go-go dancer before their mother was born. And Kevin was like, we didn't need to know that. But it's like that, I don't know why, but that was so hilarious, that little line at the end. Probably because she's presented as this person who's very strict, so the idea that she would have been more loose at one time, it would be very humorous, that the irony, if you will, I think I'm using that right. But I really did enjoy that last joke. I mean, I just laughed for felt like a minute. It was just so hilarious. I know it wasn't that much of a joke, but I just enjoyed it that much. But those are just my thoughts on this episode. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. So I finished watching Hamster and Gretel episode 10. This is actually a two-parter in the sense that 10A and 10B are telling the same story continuously, if that makes sense. But the episode title being UFO. So they're on a family vacation in Vegas, and of course, this is the episode where Gretel finally realizes that Kevin, feels left out for the fact that he doesn't have powers. So took her a while to realize that, but she finally does realize it. But also, I think the their sibling relationship is much better at the end of the episode because not only does Gretel now realize that about Kevin, but Kevin also is much more accepting of the fact that he doesn't have powers. Probably because they're more confused on what's going on with the aliens, because they learned that the Destructress and Fist Puncher, they learned that they get their powers from the aliens, finally, and that they were told to do it for evil, so they're like, is this some kind of weird alien game? Like, they're wondering what is going on. And we're still wondering what is going on as well, especially with the aliens, like, get, like, a rock that sucks power, like they got from a catalog, and then, like, who knows what's going on? Why do I have the feeling that these are just some bored aliens? That's probably what's going to be, which I think would be hilarious. But going back to the episode itself, I did kind of cover, I think, and showed the emotional heartbeat of the episode, which I really did enjoy. But let's talk about the B plot with their parents who, you know, in the adult-only swimming pool and get bored of it and try to sneak into the kid and adult pool. So parents and adults, parents and kids to be more accurate. But it's just so hilarious. It's kind of like the reverse of a common trend where you will see, you know, a kid's trying to sneak into an adult-only area. And in this case, it's them trying to sneak into an area they can only go if they had their kids with them, which I think was just a hilarious bait and switch, if you will. Probably not the best description of it, but I think it suffices. Or should we even mention how Hamster, he goes and wins a goldfish tournament at the start of the episode. It's just hilarious. I did thoroughly enjoy this episode. Granted, I think nothing can beat the joke at the end of 9B, but I mean, that's pretty good. But this one really advances what I think they're trying to tell with an ongoing plot, wherever that's going to end up being. But those are just my thoughts. I would love to hear yours in the comment section down below. So I finished watching Hamster and Gretel episode 11, 11A being Grounded, and 11B being Sleepover with the Enemy. So 11A Grounded, basically, Gretel doesn't finish doing her chores, namely doing the dishes, so she's grounded, forbidden from leaving her room, and there's a monster, a Sloppy Joe monster specifically, that was given powers by the aliens, who looking to do something crazy and random. Yeah, it sounds like they're just bored. I'm literally thinking that's what's going on with them. So, what do? Well, Hamster picks up their entire house and flies it to where the monster is, and he fights it entirely from within the room. And somehow that works. It's hilarious. And then Kevin, all he's doing the entire episode is keeping their parents distracted from everything that's going on. And he actually puts them to sleep by saying that he pretends he needs their help to complete his guided meditation homework. And he puts them to sleep by the very end of the episode. It's pretty good. As an 11B, Sleepover with the Enemy. As a new student arrives at Gretel's school and instantly makes friends with Bailey. Of course, what's really going on is apparently there's a new country. Apparently a new country, or some kind of random country. Bogolvania, I think is what they named it. It's basically a nothing country, not nothing country, but a made up country for the purpose of the episode. But anyhow, ends up once you capture Bailey's dad, because their country wants to improve the video game industry. That is just pretty hilarious. And then, how does Gretel save the day? Well, I remember Bailey says that you can make anyone a friend by being nice to them. So she's nice to the new girl Tina, and ends up finding that Tina's best friend was sent to space in Bogolvania's space program. So brings the space station down, which is doesn't look like the best space station, and really nice, and everything's hunky-dory. I mean, I can't believe how easy that was to solve. And then Gretel does call Kevin for help, but his phone dies, so he runs to Bailey's house to make sure everything's okay. And of course, he leaves the line for the new video game, like Bailey's dad had developed and was about to be released. So what does he do? He just gives him a copy of the game. I just love that. Pretty good ending for the episode. But that's more of a plot summary, but I did enjoy these episodes fairly well. They had some good jokes. It was Grounded. The reason why Gretel was grounded to begin with was when to investigate a UFO, ended up being a blip, but the actual UFO was behind the blimp. But the point is there's a bunch of jokes about false UFO sightings, and one of them was just a oversized python. And guess which characters that oversized python belonged to? The farmer and his wife. So if you don't know, there was a running gag in Phineas and Ferb involving two characters known as the farmer and his wife, where basically he was always doing something, and something connected to either Phineas and Ferb's invention or different Perry's fight will end up, making whatever he's trying to do realistic. And that's the character mods they used for that. So I did very much enjoy that as a callback there. I think they also appeared at least in one episode of Madame Murphy's Law as well. But that's mainly all I have to say today, so I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. So I finished watching Hamster and Gretel episode 12, 12A being Friday Night Fright, and 12B being the Earworm. So what's going on Friday Night Fright is, well, first of all, doesn't that sound like a Scooby-Doo title? But anyhow, it's also playing on probably a Friday night game night, because it's a family game night for for Kevin and Gretel's family. So they're doing that. Meanwhile, Fred and Hiromi are interviewing the school's cafeteria lady for the school paper, and the principal gets what appears to be a weird delivery. Ends up that delivery being some basically robots that are designed to fight other robots in the design of the school's mascots. Yeah, kind of crazy, complicated, and apparently camouflages make them go evil. Yeah, that's what happens though. And then Fred sends 101 missed calls to Kevin, none of which he answers, because guess what he's doing? Playing the game night, and they don't allow, and their family doesn't allow phones because of an incident apparently 5 years ago. But that's neither here or there. That's just a little bit of set dressing for the episode. But anyhow, Hamster's the one who finally looks down the phone and realizes what's going on, and then him and Gretel go in to save the day at the very end. And then, of course, everything's just left to be because the principal apparently doesn't want another lawsuit, because apparently the school has been through a lot of lawsuits. Very interesting. And then the Earworm, there's a villain who literally the Earworm, and he makes an Earworm specifically to put Hamster and Gretel under a trance in order to do his chores for him. Yeah, and do the crime for him. Yeah, basically he's lazy. He put in a lot of effort so he doesn't have to do work. That's essentially what he did. Anyhow, Kevin and Fred saves the day by basically figuring out what's going on, and by singing an even more eel-catching song in order to break Hamster and Gretel out of the trance, which that song happens to be a parody of It's a Small World. So yeah, it's just so perfect. I really did enjoy how they threw that little parody in there. But that's really all I have to say about these episodes. There were some good moments, some good humor. So all I have to ask for you is, what did you think of these episodes? Let me know in the comment section down below. So I finished watching Hamster and Gretel episode 13, 13A being a Mammoth problem, and 13B being the Bantam of the elementary school light opera. So 13A is basically a science fair episode. So Gretel's initial science project, of course, is a baking soda volcano along with like 30 other kids. So obviously, she's she thinks she needs to do something else. So what does she do? Well, she uses her powers and brings a glacier into the school's science fair. But of course, she can't reveal her powers, so she hires a glacier moving company. Of course. But anyhow, hijinks ensue, and another character, Noda, who's Professor Exclamation Son, so that's one of the villains of the show. His project accidentally destroys Gretel's glacier, or iceberg tip or whatever, and a woolly mammoth is released into the city. And they have to team up and actually stop it. That being Gretel and Noda. Professor Exclamation, he's not a big part of the episode, just out who Noda's father is. That's really all he does. And Hamster's doing something else. I watched the episode last night. I totally forgot what Hamster's plotline was for this. But so they stop the mammoth, and of course, get second place in the science fair because Gretel's best friend Belle gets first place because of everything. Flatfish, I believe, is what she did her science project on, which is just so hilarious. And Gretel encouraged Bailey to continue talking about Flatfish to the judges to distract them. I just love how that turned out. And then, of course, 13B, the Bantam of the elementary school light opera. Basically, we find out that Gretel has stage fright. So, was that in the... I mean, I watched a couple episodes last night, so they're all blending together. Yeah, regardless of if I've already watched the review of the episode or not, but Gretel does have established that Gretel has stage fright because of a bad performance when she was a year younger. Regardless, the main thing that goes on in the episode is basically the villain is not really a villain, but rather a previous student who basically panicked and is now living in the basement of the school. It's basically a parody of Phantom of the Opera, as you can tell with the title of the episode. But yeah, it's overall a good episode, but there's not too much to say about it, because this is actually, for once, an episode where we don't need to really worry about villains interrupting the plot of any form. It's just, normal school hijinks, for lack of a better term. And another thing that they actually show in this episode is apparently 3 high schoolers are being in charge of costuming, the equipment, and directing. Just something to take a note of. Of course, that being Kevin doing the costuming, Fred doing the lighting and props, and then Hiromi doing the directing, which is just amazing. How they brought those characters in to do that for an elementary school play, apparently. And of course, Gretel's initial before she has to take on the lead role was assisting Hiromi as basically an assistant director. And the reason why Gretel has to step up is because the original lead actress quit for some, I forget the exact reason, but basically walked off the set. Probably something to do with the costumes, which came from a discount costume store. Because Kevin was trying to save some money for them, because he did not have a large budget, which I just loved how that all worked out. But those are just mainly my thoughts. I do thoroughly enjoy these 2 episodes. I hope to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. So I finished watching episode 14 of Hamster and Gretel, 14A being Hamnesia, and 14B being Romancing the Scone. So Hamnesia, basically the episode, Hamster against Amnesia, hence Hamnesia. And that's after being hit by a truck, and he's picked up by a boy who names him Peanut. Now, let's just jump to the twist. That's not really a boy, it's actually a super villain known as the Impersonator, I think. But basically, who also was the villain who they were fighting originally, who was disguised as a villain called Record Scratch. Very complicated. Totally cartoon logic is in effect, otherwise dimensions just do not work. But it's a good episode and all that. Just we get more insight into Hamster as a character. Like, apparently he plays piano at the club and he does art. Like, just stuff that we wouldn't have expected to learn about him. And then in Romancing the Scone, so Gretel's assigned to do a book reporter for character Nordor from the A Mammoth Problem episode, in whose father is the Professor Exclamation. Well, apparently during this episode, a Scone is given evil powers by the aliens. I'm still thinking they were just messing around, like literally just messing around. Why do I think they're going to end up being like teenage aliens? But going back to the plot of the episode, apparently, basically, when Professor Exclamation learns that the Scone has evil powers, he wants him in order each to take a bite of it to gain evil powers themselves. But Nordor does end up rejecting it, and a lot of it has to do with the conversation he's had with Gretel. First of all, they're arguing about a book series, the book they're going to do for the book report that they're assigned, and basically who's the main character of the book series, and then also a few other things as well. Well, but it ends up the reason why Nordor decides to reject getting evil powers is basically when Gretel tells him that if he becomes a supervillain, they can't be friends. And definitely sounds like Nordor, he may know he's a little weird, and he does acknowledge that, but it does sound like he wants a semi-normal life. But also, can I just say, I just love the idea of one of the evil villains just being totally, and I mean totally just a father who, like, big evil, like, at the end, like, denounces his son, says his name will never be spoken in his house again, blah blah blah, and then pick you up after soccer. Like that contrast is just so funny to me, which I really did enjoy. There's some other good jokes along those same lines in this episode, including in the B plot, where Kevin takes Hamster to the vet, and Hamster is just afraid of the vet, and they don't really actually address the reason why the vet then comes in, like, looks at him, says, okay, like, not even a good checkup, and then closes the door, then comes back, oh, that'd be $5,000, like, no, that's where the joke is coming from, the price of the vet. But yeah, in all honesty, this was I definitely prefer romance and just going a little bit more over Hamnesia, but those are just my personal thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. So I finished watching episode 15 of Hamster and Gretel, 15A being For Whom the Bell Tolls, and 15B being An Arthouse Divided. So to begin with, one note about From Whom the Bell Tolls. Belle is spelled B-E-L-L-E. So Belle, as in the French word for beauty, or like, Belle from Beauty and the Beast, which in French is actually Le Belle et Le Bête, something like that, if I remember correctly. But that's mainly because the antagonist of the episode, the villain, is a social media influencer named Belle, who's running a smear campaign against Hamster and Gretel, all to get clicks, all basically for the online clout. There's like literally a whole song where she sings about how she's been trying to find some way to make her stand out, so that way she rises to the top of the social media influence ladder, and she decided smear campaign against two superheroes in order to make herself look good. And that's literally what she does. And the episode clearly does have a stance that smear campaigns are a bad thing. And of course it ends on a happy note, obviously. It's revealed to the public that yes, she's just making things up, she's editing things deceptively. But that's something us in the real world do need to be aware of. That many times things on social media may not be what they appear at first glance. So hopefully people are as... this is what I'm going to say. Hopefully people are as bad as this fictional character in their smear campaigns, where it's so obvious that they are faked. But when it's a false smear campaign, because sometimes some people deserve to be called out for their problems, but that's not a smear campaign. Smear campaign is very much would be a thing of libel and slander. But let's move on to An Arthouse Divided. So basically an advanced screening is given for the movie, and the villain is basically a Arthouse producer, basically named Arthouse. But basically the idea is basically the pretentious film student type character, who thinks like the only good films are those that, they're always filmed in like black and white and sepia, and like they make no actual sense in the plot, and are actually really just boring and nonsense. Well, yeah, he basically takes over the screening of an actual film that people want to see, and locks them in their seat and forces them to, watch his show, and or his movie. And guess what? Only one character actually liked it, that being Hamster. Go figure. But it is a very good film, good episode segment. And I do think it provides some pretty good commentary on the nature of film and all that, and how often many people, especially in more the Arthouse realm, they think that their films are the best things ever. In fact, you get this a lot with people with content. It doesn't matter what kind of content it is, but think that their thing is the best ever, and frustrating people don't like their content. I mean, just look at all the YouTubers, including myself, who beg for likes and subscribes. Though that is a little different because that's generally how the YouTube marketplace works. But even still, there are many YouTubers out there who will complain that they don't get a lot of views. Like, asking for likes and subscribes is one thing, but there's another thing when you make a whole video ranting about not getting views. And unfortunately, there are some YouTubers who complain about not getting enough views rather than celebrating those that they do get. But those are just generally my thoughts, that this episode brought up. These two episodes are probably, in some ways, the most potent, the most commentary episode so far of Hamster and Gretel. Perhaps that's just the nature of the villains that they chose to tell, leading to those more opportunities for commentary. But those are generally my thoughts. I would love to hear yours in the comment section down below. So I finished watching episode 16 of Hamster and Gretel, 16A being the Litigator versus the Luchador, and 16B being Strawberry Fest Forever. So 16A basically is a wrestling episode in a sense. So the main villain of the episode is El Luchador, who's a wrestler who's also apparently a super villain. But now, so Hamster and Gretel and Kevin all sneak in to a wrestling match in order to find him and bring him to justice, basically, being superheroes. But one thing to take a note of is, I did find it funny, Kevin was able to sneak in by pretending to be on a Canadian wrestling podcast. Of course, he had to call Fright to get information on wrestling. Where Hamster and Gretel simply used basically the old trench coat routine to get in. Kind of funny there. And then, but also during all this, their aunt Melissa is in town. And of course their parents, especially their mother, get suspicious of her because she's a lawyer, but she seems to be hiding something from them. Well, the two plot points come together because their parents also sneak into that wrestling match as well. Of course, not as sneakily as Hamster and Gretel and Kevin do, but still, they sneak in nevertheless. And what it turns out the aunt quit being a lawyer and became a legal/lawyer themed wrestler known as Litigator. Of course. It's just hilarious there. But in the end, because the Luchador, the villain, uses not only illegal moves but very powerful, Gretel, Hamster, in their disguise help their aunt win. It's just hilarious. And happy ending, of course. And then Strawberry Fest Forever. So first of all, why does this title make me think of Strawberry Fields Forever? I'm just saying, I think that was done on purpose. But anyhow, so Gretel and her mother Carolina go to a strawberry festival. Now, you can definitely tell their mother was thinking that this was going to be, a strawberry festival, not a carnival with everything strawberry themed and based around a stuntman whose last name I think is Strawberry. Like she obviously wasn't expecting that. Meanwhile, Kevin and their father go to visit the neighbor for a repair job but get sidetracked by their storyteller. So basically, both of these is allows the mother and daughter time and then father and son time. But it flips that on the script, because normally you would think the father and son would be doing the crazy stuff, while the mother and daughter would be getting sidetracked by somebody's storytelling. Nope, they flip it around, and it's just very much enjoyable how with them flipping that around, turning our expectations on our head, and that helps tell the story, and it allows both sets to actually bond. So it's not like they flipped it on the head and just played with it for fun. They actually had it be important for character bonding. So they did a good job of that in my opinion. But mainly those are just my thoughts on it. I would love to hear your thoughts on these episodes 16A and 16B in the comment section down below. So I finished watching the 17th episode of Hamster and Gretel, 17A being the Barter episode and 17B being Micromanager. So beginning with the Barter episode, this is literally a barter episode. Now, traditionally in TV, a barter episode is basically they're trying to save money, so they use only like 1 or 2 pre-built sets. They don't build any new sets, blah blah blah. That's kind of what a barter episode is in short. Actually, DuckTales 2017 did a barter episode as well, and that the thing with animation is it's different than with live action. One way of doing it is you save money in other regards. Now, that's not quite what they did here, obviously. And this one, kind of like that DuckTales episode, are both kind of parodies more of the barter episode genre. And in this case, they do it by having Hamster, Gretel, and Kevin shrunk down and placed in a literal barter. So it becomes a literal barter episode. And the episode is pretty much set in 2 locations. Inside the barter, and then inside the shop of a barter, a person who makes, basically ships in the barter and a bunch of other stuff in the barter. So they did kind of convey the idea of a barter episode in that regard. And of course, who's the hero of the story? Fred. She's the one who saves them. And it's just hilarious how she realizes that the shopkeeper is a villain. No, not because Hamster, Gretel, and Kevin are doing their best to send a message to her. No, because she picks up on totally minute details that nobody else would pick up on. Just great right there. And then of course, micromanager. Well, Kevin gets a job at a restaurant called Small Burger. And apparently Small Burger's biggest rival is Tall Burger. Yeah, I see where this is going. And the manager is literally a micromanager, and also is using his employees to build equipment in order to destroy Tall Burger, to literally destroy the building. And it's just crazy. Of course, the episode is saved because of the fact that, you know, the manager, you know, by getting teenage boys specifically to do his work, that doesn't mean they actually did a good job doing the work. So that allows Hamster and Gretel to defeat the robot that the micromanager was having Kevin and another employee, Anthony, build inadvertently. And it's just crazy. But yeah, the episode ends. There's not too much to say, but it's kind of like taking the idea of a micromanager to an extreme point and make the micromanager a literal villain. Because sometimes micromanagers do feel like the villains of a workplace. But those are just my thoughts on episode 17. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. So I just finished watching the 18th episode of Hamster and Gretel, 18A being When Life Gives You Lemons, and 18 being Self-HEELP! Okay, I hope I pronounced that right, because it is all in caps with an exclamation point. But anyhow, so with When Life Gives You the Lemons, well, Gretel and Belle are doing a lemonade stand, and of course Luchador comes in, and basically He basically takes it over, but also, it's definitely showing him that, well, he may not be a villain per se, especially as what was established in a previous episode. He's definitely not what you would call a, hero. If anything, he might be more of an anti-hero in terms of how they're presenting his character at this moment. But I think more than anything, they just want to show somebody who is overly ambitious, and who sometimes, you know, doesn't quite think things through, like using experimental radioactive element to supersize a lemon, and then just makes a god-awful lemonade from what it sounds like the taste is, just pure sugar. Lemonade has to be sour. Sure, you want a little sweetness to counterbalance the sour, but if it's all sweetness, it's not lemonade, it's something else. It's lemon flavored sugar water, I guess? I don't know. But that's what's going on there, and of course, this episode is like written to test, in quotations, Gretel and Belle's friendship, but not really, because, you know, at the end of the episode. But the main thing going on with all this is, it's I think designed to show, you know, just kids being kids, and how things can sometimes get supersized and all crazy. Though I can definitely say this, Phineas and Ferb's lemonade stand was definitely much more successful until the robot got a paper cut. So their lemonade was at least sour. But going back to Hamster and Gretel, so the B plot has Kevin and Hamster playing pool or billiards. I'm not sure which. Can you identify? I know there's a slight difference between them, but anyhow, they're doing that, and that's how they stop the gigantic lemon when it gets loose. Well, except for they forgot to account for density of the ball that they grab. But still, they stopped them from going all over the place. And then in 18B Self-HEELP, well, guess who we meet for once? Fred's mother. And of course, she is the exact opposite of Fred. I mean, literally her whole shtick is being a motivational speaker who's, you know what, basically all about being positive to be positive, to sum it up. And like the exact opposite of Fred. But the heart of the story is that does show that she does get Fred, because sure, she gets Fred, it shows that on surface level looks like a cute bunny shirt, but really shine a black light on it and it's much more Fred's style. So the heart of this episode is showing that despite her mother being the exact opposite of her in many ways, she still does get Fred, which I think is a very good thing. And of course the villain is literally a guy who has a dumb idea to give himself geese wings. Yeah, and all he can do, and he can make geese mad, but that's all he can do. It is just hilarious how dumb the villain is, and I think it was very much designed to be dumb. So this episode does clearly mention tri-state area, so it does seem like it's set in the same general location as Phineas and Ferb and Mammoth is all. I'm just saying, they seem to be at least establishing some close proximity in terms of area. Of course, who knows how big the tri-state area actually is. But one last thing I want to note, so Hamster and Gretel get the geese to all leave by getting a, basically the horn of a tugboat. And of course the last line that Hamster gets is, was a lot heavier than I thought. And then pans out, and guess what? There's a whole cargo ship behind him. That was also along with the tugboat, which is just hilarious. Pretty good ending, but those are just my thoughts on this episode. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. So I finished watching Hamster and Gretel episode 19, 19A being My Invisible Friend, and 9P being The Bitter Sitter. So to begin with, while these two stories are different stories with different villains, it is still telling one complete story, that being Belle finding out that Gretel is Gretel, i.e. her friend Gretel is the superhero Gretel, and the fallout from that. She finds out at the end of My Invisible Friend, which is a spelling bee episode, and actually the supervillain is a rat team supervillain, who's actually the other contestant's mother who's helping him cheat. And Gretel stops it, but that is at the end of the episode what leads to Belle finding out that Gretel is a superhero, because Gretel uses her powers to save Belle from a piece of falling light fixtures in the auditorium that the spelling bee was in. And of course that creates a little bit of a rift, but thankfully that rift is healed at the end of The Bitter Sitter, because what's going on in that episode? Well, you have basically both the parents along with Kevin are going out to just want to make sure, an interactive murder mystery play, and so Gretel and Belle are left behind, and a babysitter is hired. Oh, by the way, that babysitter, yeah, it's a destructress, but who's looking to make some legitimate money, because every time she and her brother do anything crime related, they always get caught. So it sounds like she's probably, she essentially said crime doesn't pay. Is essentially why she's babysitting. It's kind of interesting there. And her frustrations with her brother, who you can definitely tell there's something developing with her character, the fact that she wants something more legitimate than being a supervillain. But also, because of the actions of that, and everything going on, Belle and Gretel repair their friendship, and now they both know that their baby sister Lauren is a destructress, so then now they have a secret they can share together. I do wonder, would they include Kevin in that? But the murder mystery play that Kevin is forced to go to because he doesn't want to go, yeah, it's not really a murder mystery play. A guy is just scamming people into cleaning his house and repairing his appliances, and Kevin is the only one who picked up on that, which makes sense because he's actually solving mysteries on the regular, so he could pick up that this wasn't a real mystery. Well, yeah, obviously it's not a real mystery, but he could pick up on what was actually going on before everyone else. It's just hilarious. And he points out that, ooh, we gotta go again. Like, what? Like, he's the only one. I bet in that moment, he understands, probably better understood his cousin Fred's opinion on a lot of things, the cynicism and all that, because that's definitely how Kevin was acting in this episode. He definitely probably understood those things a lot more in this episode. They never actually really addressed that, but come on, I was thinking, if Fred was there, she would have really been saying it much sooner than Kevin had about how the guy was just tricking them into cleaning his house and not even paying them to do so, but being paid to let them clean his house. It's just crazy. But yeah, it was overall a very good episode. I really did appreciate how this episode did use its two parts to tell one complete story with two independent plot lines. Like I said, that's only been done once before, and that was a proper two-parter where the two parts of the episode actually told the same story in both the A and B plot. But here, the A plot is, in my opinion, Gretel and Belle's friendship and finding out about Gretel's identity as a superhero. That's the A plot, that's the consistent in both. But the B plot in both episodes is the supervillain's plan. And I really do like how both of those things connected with each other to facilitate the A plot rather than being separate from each other. Because that does sometimes happen with A and B plots in cartoons. Well, sometimes they interact, sometimes they don't, but I really do like it when they do interact. And this way, the B plots of both episodes interacted differently with the A plot to help tell the A plot story, which I really much enjoyed. But I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. So I finished watching episode 20 of Hamster and Gretel, 20A being Let's See What You've Got, and 20B being Churro's Day Out. So 20A is basically all about, now that Belle knows that Gretel has superpowers, them experimenting with Gretel's superpowers. Of course, their actions inadvertently cause basically several invasive species to appear at a lagoon. They do clean it up, all the while Kevin's trying to find a parking spot. That's honestly the most hilarious, and there was almost one, but it was not available because somebody was taking up 2 spots, and Kevin, right after telling Gretel not to use her powers frivolously, says, hey, would you mind? That actually wouldn't be using frivolously because that person was double parking, which is illegal, so if Gretel actually moved the car, that wouldn't have been a frivolous use of power. Just probably would have been frivolous if Kevin took the spot. But he played it off like he was testing, but I'm just saying, the car was in making a parking violation, so it should have been able to be that pass. But that was not the point of that gag. The point was to show that no, yeah, powers can be used frivolously, and sometimes even the person saying you shouldn't use them frivolously may sometimes identify a frivolous need. So in that case, would it have been frivolous? See how I'm hung up on that? But things do get solved in the end. They're able to deal with all those invasive species by Hamster remembering about the big sea otter from a couple episodes ago. So he brings him to the lagoon where he eats all the invasive species, specifically the last one that they have brought to stop the one before, which stopped the one before. It kind of is chain, and how also a vaguer message and how sometimes you may have an invasive species. Well, bringing another invasive species is not always the best way of dealing with that invasive species, because you may solve the first one, but you don't solve the second one. But a giant baby sea otter to eat the last of, I think it was sea urchins, giant sea urchins I think it was, if I get it alright. Yeah, because they can just take that one sea otter someplace else. So it was able to be solved that way. But episode 20B is of course Churro's Days Out. So Kevin, Gretel and the parents are going to get a family portrait by a portrait artist who does not allow pets. Of course. So basically Churro and Hamster are both left at home. Of course, Hamster just does, himself. He orders the pizza and all that. Of course, Churro gets away, and so a good portion of the episode is Hamster trying to find Churro once again using the tracker that's on the collar, though the collar eventually does come off. And that's because Hamster calls Fred to help with the tracking, and that's about it. But still, I thought it was kind of fun. But eventually, Churro finds his way to the portrait gallery where the framed portrait is being done, and the artist is very much keeps on changing things up because some things not working. And guess what actually works? Once Churro and Hamster arrive and the artist is the portrait artist is told that yep, they're family, the picture comes out perfectly. It's almost like perhaps pets are part of a person's family, and so being included is what allowed this artist to create the picture he was designing, because he couldn't get the picture done because the family, the Grand Gomez's, were incomplete because the pets weren't there, so they weren't able to pose correctly, and he couldn't direct them correctly because of that missing piece of the pets. And it's just something interesting to note. But that's all I have for these 2 episode sections, I guess is what I'm trying to say there. Again, 20A and 20B. I would love to hear your thoughts on them in the comment section down below. It's time to review episode 21 of Hamster and Gretel. Episode 21A is Criticism Haste Makes Waste, and episode 21B, The Break Stuff Club. So 21A, Crimson Haste Makes, basically is an episode where they're dealing with a speedster villain. So the villain has basically created a delivery service where she steals stuff and people pay her to get stuff super quickly. That's pretty much what's going on. Doing this, of course, Kevin, Hiromi, Fred, and I forget who's the fourth character, but they're basically making a commercial for a commercial contest, which is basically for a condiment that's just a mixture of other condiments. Anyhow, they do the speedster is faster than Hamster and Gretel. It's faster. They're not able to outrun her. Also, after she steals the camera with the evidence, which they also need to make the commercial, they use her own delivery app to trick her into standing in that condiment mixture, which apparently when exposed to fire, hardens like cement. Anyhow, that's how they get her. And of course, at the very end of 21A, well, the commercial contest, yeah, it ends. It basically ends with basically the executives are like, what were we thinking? Let's just go with our initial idea and mark it as an engine lubricant or something like that. Like, okay, that's definitely something you probably don't want to eat. But yeah, it's a very fun episode. I do think I like it a little more than 21B, but that's only because with 21B, the Break Stuff Club has Kevin trying to get himself detention. He's just failing miserably. Granted, that is the point. But still. I mean, the reason why is so because they think a mural that Hiromi made for the school was vandalized by the Break Stuff Club, who are basically a bunch of art students who've done some pranks that got them in detention. And it turns out being the pranks they pulled were actually because they were protesting cutting funding for the arts in the school. And then the villain is actually, well, the one who sponsored the meal, the bank CEO who sponsored the meal because he wanted to collect the insurance money from it. What kind of plan is that? And granted, they do acknowledge that was a dumb plan, and then he just says, we're not a smart bank or something along that line, so yeah. But also, a big part of this though is, the tide remind me a little bit of The Breakfast Club. Not quite the same, but I get what they're going for with that, kind of that play on words going on though. Which they also did an episode parodying The Breakfast Club in Mammoth we saw, which was also created by Dan Povenmire. Kind of like that little connection there. But overall, I did think both episodes were pretty good, and like I say, Kevin fails at trying to be basically a bad guy, or at least a troublemaker. He just does not pull that off very well. But overall, both episodes were very good. I did enjoy them. I thought the villains were both interesting. Sure, the villain in the Big Stuff Club was kind of lame, but he was supposed to be lame. But yeah, overall, like I said, pretty good episode. I would love to hear your thoughts on these two episodes in the comment section down below. It's time to review episode 22 of Hamster and Gretel. 22A being Over the Hill and 22B being The Ice Cream Cometh. So Over the Hill is basically Gretel and Belle are shadowing Veronica Hill, so the news reporter that we've seen in several episodes of Hamster and Gretel. And apparently it's time she's about to do for a promotion, but then she is basically somebody else comes in, because apparently a fresh hire, I guess, and gets that role instead. Basically, she'd be a lead correspondent doing sit-down news interviews. So, didn't she do one a couple episodes back? I forget which episode it was exactly. But yeah, I feel like there was one, but the point of the episode being, well, being that, I guess. But anyhow, the person ends up being controlled by Van Dyke, so that was the evil facial hair from a few episodes back. Yep, and he does that, and he takes over he takes over almost everyone, go figure. And then he's defeated, by Hamster flying into a machine that's designed not to go into the red and to proof up poodles, I believe, because Hamster and Kevin go to get their haircut at a haircut or hairdresser, hair salon, whatever, that does the owners and the pets. Okay, weird. Weird going on, but it is good fun. Though, apparently Veronica's hair's parents own a dirt farm. How do you exactly farm dirt? I can understand harvesting it. You have some good quality dirt, so actually it does make sense. You provide dirt to other people who may not have dirt in their area that maybe provide nutrition and all that, but that seems kind of complicated. Oh well. But the Ice Cream Cometh is basically, the villain is ice themed, obviously, and is basically freezing everyone she deems as cool enough using a special countdown she calls ice. Not ice, ice. That's the whole joke in the episode. Can't really do it justice. But anyhow, they defeat her by tossing her special compound into the sun, and that melts everyone. But yeah, there's also a clock-themed villain going on too in the background of the episode. Pretty minor. Don't know why they threw it in here besides being fun. And you get the joke by the policeman at the end about having basically 2 supervillains in one episode. Not quite. But then, of course, Gretel makes a joke at the very end. What's this town? Where basically a hot-themed soup restaurant opens up across the street. That's probably is being run by a supervillain who's doing something to a demon who's, I guess, hot enough. I don't know, because they don't deal with that after dealing with someone who opened an ice cream parlor, trying to basically freeze everyone who she deemed as cool enough. And Gretel jokes, what's with this town? Yeah, what is going on with the town? Probably has something to do with those aliens, even though they're not shown again in this episode. But you know what? It is a very good episode. I did thoroughly enjoy it. It has some good humor. But overall, that's pretty much all I have to say. Just a quick review and overview and plot summary. But I would love to hear your thoughts on the episode in the comment section down below. So it's time to review episode 23 of Hamster and Gretel. Episode 23A is La Sombrerona. Let me try that again. La Sombrerona. I am very bad with Spanish. My accent is terrible. And that was also very terrible. Anyhow, episode 23B is 2 girls, a guy, and the Council of Doom. So, let's begin with 23A, La Sombrerona. That is difficult for me to say. But anyhow, basically the villain is basically a Hispanic widow who has had 5 husbands who all mysteriously got killed in increasingly hilarious circumstances, but tragic, involving a tiger. Don't know how the tiger works because, you know, as they say in the story, tigers are not native to South America. But anyhow, so that's the villain fights. She's draining the happiness from everyone. And of course, she's defeated, basically, by accident when Kevin trying to win at a carnival game to get a stuffed koala bear for Jerome. Well, he sneakily turns up the water pressure so he even has a chance, and it goes all haywire and he knocks her off balance, hitting one of those things, you know, where you throw like a hammer down and you got to ring the bell or whatever to get some prizes. That damages the radio antenna she permanently attached to her head, and that's how she's defeated. Yeah, she basically gets a degree in neuroscience just to suck everyone's happiness out. And because this episode also sees the return of Hamster and Gretel's grandmother, whose name I, for some reason, Abuelita? I think I got that right. Actually I didn't. Why am I blanking? I should not be blanking at all. Yeah, Abuelita. But anyhow, so no, she does show more for side that's totally strict. Like she's like tells Gretel when La Sombrerona is on the news, like, nope, you're not going after her. You gotta finish your homework. And then the news reports that that senior center and shuffleboard are affected, and she's like, okay, yep, you can go get her now. So that tells us there is something she does care about besides people, doing their chores. It's getting to play shuffleboard, I guess, which kind of makes sense, but at the same time, like, that's what it is. But anyhow, not to mention, La Sombrerona's tech has no effect on Fred, who, has like no natural happiness going on in her. So it's just good old hilarious fun from there. But anyhow, let's go on to 23B. 2 girls, a guy, and the Council of Doom. Of course, it could also be pronounced dumb, but it does have umlets, like Professor Explanation pointed out. But anyhow, basically, Nodo invites Gretel and Bailey over for dinner, and at the same time, Professor Exclamation, who is Nodo's father, gets a few other villains and are plotting revenge on Hamster and Gretel. And of course, Gretel does know that Nodo's father is Professor Exclamation, but Bailey does not learn that until this episode. And she's like, wait, you do? And Gretel was like, yeah. But this episode also confirms to Bailey that Nodo is not, a bad guy, that he's just a normal kid. Well, normal being relative, but normal as in the sense of not evil. And and Professor Exclamation actually traps all those villains because he doesn't want them interfering with his plans, but Gretel uses that because she can't reveal herself as a superhero inside the home because of the anti-superhero defenses, tricks Professor Exclamation into admitting that what he did was somewhat superhero behavior, and he's flown to, I guess, the Arctic or the Antarctic based off of some of the scenes that we saw with the poster of Hamster and Gretel that Bailey had. But anyhow, apparently something like this happens to him like every Tuesday, or like once a week, so no, just not surprised at all, which is hilarious. But he's definitely shown to, he's not quite a normal kid, but he is definitely also shown to be a bit more mature in some ways than his own father. But it's another great episode, and it shows that Professor Exclamation might be more of a serious threat if he wasn't so, I guess, incompetent. Like, he's incompetent, but in not a weird way. But man, I would love to see him meet up with Dr. Doof, because they both have their own forms of incompetence. With Doof, it's always poor playing skills, but with Professor Exclamation, it's something else. It's a different kind of incompetence. It's almost like, not poor playing skills, but rather, you know, everything is going against him, I guess. I don't know, but it's weird. But I would still love to see them interact, because I think it'd be hilarious. But that's all I got for my review of these two episodes. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. Last week I reviewed episode 23 of Hamster and Gretel, but today is going to be episode 24 of Hamster and Gretel, obviously. Well, 24A is Nano a Nano. I think that's definitely a play on Mano y Mano. I honestly think that's a play. And then episode 24B is The Ultimate History of Dr. Medusasaurus. So, each two parts, like I say, were amazing. Where do I want to begin? This, honestly, Nano a Nano. Might as well. So, basically the plot is Gretel's class is going on a field trip to a robotics factory, and then one of Gretel's classmates accidentally falls under the control of a nanobot named Simon. So they get some Simon Says jokes in there as well, which I really did like. But also, the undercurrent, sure we can talk about the actual events, but the undercurrent is bullying, and gotta say, Gretel's school needs to do better. There's literally an after-school club to make bullies better bullies by increasing their vocabulary. It's bad, and the teacher just does nothing. But you know what? And one of the bullies calling Gretel gregarious Gretel, which just means she's friendly. But he says it sounds worse. It's just crazy. But anyhow, Kelly basically is called Clumsy Kelly by all the bullies, and she knocks over some nanobots, and that's how that nanobot named Simon gets control for. But I guess the voice actress who plays Kelly might be familiar if you watch Murphy's Law or DuckTales, and I'm pretty sure she's in other things as well, that being Cutie. In Murphy's Law, she actually voiced Mallow's sister. Murphy's Law, bad things happen, and that kind of fits a little bit with the character she's playing here. I think that's more of an obvious homage, but it's quite kind of interesting how they did that, they wrote this, either they wrote this character and thought she'd be perfect, or they wanted her to voice a character and wrote this character for it. I don't know what they decided behind the scenes, but I gotta say, that is almost kind of perfect, that the character she voices in this episode has no bad luck like Mars. Different kind, more clumsiness bad luck, but still, it's kind of funny that parallel though. And I have to think that was intentional on the part of Dan Povenmire and all the other people involved. It has to be intentional. I heard her voice, I recognize it. What's her name again? Check the credits, and I was right. But yeah, honestly, it was a good episode, and really, also a good message that many bullies just feel small about themselves. And how does Gretel defeat Simon, who is basically a nanobot being a bully? Basically, not asking what Simon says. What does Simon feel? And what does he want to do? Actually paint, so now he's instructing the bullies on painting, and one of them's basically, the lead one is makes him feel better. He also likes unicorns, and he kind of talks about how they represent innocence and all that. Kind of interesting, but really does show how in many cases, some bullies are bullies because they feel small. Sadly, that's not always going to be the case, but I really do like the messaging of them. And I also like what I mentioned earlier about the parallel of Murphy's Law, even though not supposed to be anything super direct, it's still obvious, clear, and very fun. But let's move on to 24B, The Ultimate History of Dr. Medusasaurus, and kind of like Nano, the villain's not really a villain. Simon, he wasn't really a villain, he was just someone who felt small, and once he got someone who, was willing to, not necessarily hear him out, but got him to express what he actually wanted, and be appreciated for what he wanted, he didn't have the need anymore. And same here, so Medusasaurus, I forget her actual name, but it's kind of funny how that happened, but again, same thing though. She's technically in the right, and the villain of the story is actually the person who runs the museum, who was her former intern, who accidentally spilled toxic waste into a tar pit and accidentally knocked her in. Man, talk about bad luck there. But again, she's not really at fault. She just, once the situation was realized what was going on, yeah, she probably could have handled it better, but then again, she was mad and she was suspended in toxic waste and tar for 30 years. Yeah, that's gonna make anyone a little bit cranky. But you know what? The episode was fun, and I really do like how these two episodes kind of take a break from the normal super villain. The villains are not true villains in this. They're just people who are misunderstood, who maybe could approach the situation better, but not technically villains. Just people who needed to either learn a lesson or just be put in a situation where they could actually express what their frustrations are and have it be remedied. And honestly, both are good episodes. And there's not too much more I can say besides I want to hear from you. What did you think of these episodes? I think this might actually be my favorite episode of Hamster and Gretel so far. But again, I want to hear from you, and of course, so last week I reviewed episode 24 of Hamster and Gretel. Well, this week I'm going to be reviewing episode 25. 25A of Hamster and Gretel is No Sprain, No Gain, while 25B is Finding Professor X. So both are great episodes. I do think I still like 24 a bit more, but No Sprain, No Gain, well, the villain is a spider-themed villain, and yeah, and who basically, apparently in this world, not only do the town has lots of just crazy museums, just for everything, bug-themed jewelry, and apparently there's also certifications to become jewel thieves in this town. What's going on in the universe of Hamster and Gretel? But though the villain, she got her power from the aliens that have been, who knows what they're doing. I think just messing around, not knowing what they're doing. I forgot to mention, but in 24B, the Ultimate History of Dr. Medusasaurus, she got her powers from the aliens as well. What's going on with these aliens? I think they're just incompetent and just messing around with humans. I think that's what's going on. Or it could be some kind of meta commentary on storytelling. Who knows? But anyhow, going back to No Sprain, No Gain. So, Hamster, Gretel, and Fred are doing the investigation because Kevin has a sprained ankle and he's embarrassed of his knee scooter, which is unicorn themed. First of all, I don't think in real life I've ever seen other than plain basic black or gray ankles or knee scooter. I don't think I've ever seen any that's another color. Maybe a light blue, maybe like a deep blue, but no, unicorn themed. I don't think I've ever seen that one. Granted, I don't see too many kids using them, and I think kids be more likely to have that, but again, what's going on in this town? But he is embarrassed. But you know what? When Hamster, Gretel, and Fred all get shot by the spider-themed villain, Itsy Bitsy, whatever, I think. I thought there was a third word. Oh well. Anyhow, he does get out, use it, go out in public, get the stuff he needs, which based off everything he watched, he's able to actually come up with a plan. Now, he is the person who does come up with the plan in most episodes. But the crazy thing is, he named it Pinky. I don't know why, but that's just so funny. But one of the things he was watching was an ad. I'm pretty sure they reused the one of the musical themes, motifs, whatever term, from Mammoth for Dr. Zone. I'm pretty sure they reused that for one of the commercials. Doesn't play too much a role at all. I just thought, that musical seems familiar. I think that's from Mammoth. Again, I do like 2 episodes in a row we get subtle references, which, you know what, is pretty impressive. And then, let's really go on to 25B. And we're finding Professor X. This continues from basically the plot from 2 girls, a guy, and the counselor Dumb. Basically, Gretel volunteers to help Noda find his father. They basically go for a bunch of riddles, and they do get to a point where they find not Professor X, but basically something of his in a creepy abandoned doll factory, which is creepy, abandoned, and creepy dolls. Go figure. But Noda successfully answers every riddle correctly that his father left for him, except for the last one. He answered correctly. His father put the answer in incorrectly, because his father can never remember Noda's birthday. Meanwhile, Noda, I forget, the robot that Professor X had created that is basically now taking care of Noda. He remembers both Noda's actual birthday and that Professor X always gets it wrong. And so Noda's journey in this episode is learning that basically his robot cares for him more than his father does, which is just a hilarious thing. But that's what's going on there. The third question is, what is Professor X doing? Gotta figure that out. That's probably gonna be in a later episode, I'm guessing. But meanwhile, doing all this, Kevin, Fred, and Hamster go on a bet to see how long they can go without using technology. I expected them to cave almost instantly. Nope, doesn't happen. But one thing, right before they start, Hamster gets a phone call. He says it's a wrong number, but maybe not, I don't know. But when they do the transition, it's Hamster's phone, and it shows a picture of Candace and Stacy from Phineas and Ferb. That's obviously just a reference there, but really funny if one of them accidentally, dialed Hamster's phone by mistake. I think that'd be hilarious, and I hope that what's happened. But honestly, it was a one-off joke. But like apparently doing this, they turned off all the power, or turned off the power in the house, or at least the lights. And it's crazy what they did. Like, Fred writes a novel, but gets an old somehow they get an old writing desk too. Must have been storage somewhere. And then basically an oil lamp, and she with cursive writes a novel in 3 hours. Pretty impressive. And meanwhile, what's Kevin doing? Well, he is finding the circumference, I think, or was it the diameter of the Earth using a pendulum and I want to say it was peanut butter. No, mustard, mayonnaise, something like that, some condiment. And meanwhile, Hamster is just meditating, trying to basically achieve nirvana, enlightenment, whatever. Apparently, it's not what he expected. Maybe he hadn't reached it yet, but it's just hilarious. And then the last joke that they make is Kevin's mom comes home, turns the lights on, they're like, because they had gotten used, and they were like, we were just about to solve cold fusion. Which is hilarious. And then, of course, Kevin's mother turns on the TV to watch a soap opera, which is asparagus themed. What's going on in this universe? But they get distracted, screen and all that, and they're like, well, I feel like we're about doing something important. It's just so hilarious. What they accomplished in one afternoon by turning the lights off. It's just so hilarious. I don't know why, it's just so funny to me. But you know what? That's episode 25. I really talk about what I really love. Not the summarization, but honestly, I think I covered the most important parts. And really, the most important part in overall, I think, is Noda learning that basically who cares for him more in his own family. I think that's the more important thing, and I think that's going to play a role later on in the show, season, series, wherever it's going to end up being. But I would like to hear from you. What did you think of this episode? The comment section is down below. So last week I reviewed episode 25 of Hamster and Gretel. Well, this week it's moving on to episode 26. Episode 26A of Hamster and Gretel is Bayou Bob, while 26B is The Great Pillar War. So, to begin with, both are good episodes, though again, I still think 24 of the recent batch is my favorite. But I really do like The Great Pillar War, but I want to talk about that later. And let's talk about Bayou Bob. It's a family vacation. They're going to basically it's a restaurant that basically ghost story, popularized for its legend, all that stuff. And actually, Kevin and Gretel pretty much expects it's a tourist trap. Well, guess what? They find Bayou Bob. She's real, and she's actually been infused to a tree and her wall for irons. Crazy. And then they basically get her to agree by, hey, the town is basically a big fan of your legend. They're making money off of it. You should get a cut of it too. And that's how the episode ends. It's pretty good. Though, you can definitely tell Kevin and Gretel are kind of tired of their parents basically kind of almost falling for all the obvious tourist traps going on. But anyhow, in the Great Pillar War, well, basically apparently every year, month, I'm not sure which, probably
it sounds more like a you, but apparently Kevin and Gretel have a pillow fight to determine control of the remote control after a disagreement. But what I really loved about this is how basically Hamster is narrating it every now and then. Really only at beginning and end, but like the way it's done and all that, especially the flashback with Hamster's narration, kind of makes me think, are they parodying Ken Burns' documentary, especially his Civil War documentary? Are they doing that? Because I'm getting those vibes. I'm just saying, and I'm all here for that. But so basically, they each now basically going on so long they're forming teams, and to have them help. And of course, because the parents do know that they do hold this pillow fight, not only are snacks provided by all the parents, but their friends come over, but this time they're also Lauren, the baby sister who's actually the Destructress. Which, this is the episode when Kevin finds that out, because Gretel and Bailey already knew that. Also, Fred and Anthony come over. Homie was said to come over, but had to cancel. So, but also having the baby sister over, well, guess what? Now they can have even teams. But it's just so hilarious and going on. But also, a plot thread going through this is the fact that basically Lauren is embarrassed of her twin brother Liar, the Destructor. No, Fist Puncher, sorry. I don't know why I had that mind blank real quick. But it's like, and so the sibling bond is repaired in this episode a little bit. But it's kind of interesting. No, one thing is Fist Puncher, he's much more, I would say, aggressive than his sister. Well, his sister's like, realizes, hey, they can't always be super villains. The guy has some legitimate income coming in. But it's something interesting. But what I really dislike is just the craziness that goes on in the Great Pillar Wall. Plus the title, the Great Pillar Wall. I mean, why do I feel like they took the Great Wall and then took the Pastry Wall and mashed them together and totally ignored that except for the name? Because there was a Pastry Wall fought between France and Mexico over some debts. Yeah, it was a bit of a kerfuffle. But yeah, I just love how the name invokes both the Great Wall, but also pillow, pastry, kind of similar sounding, very loosely. But you know what? This is where my mind goes when I hear these words, I guess. I don't know what I'm going for here. But you know what? It's time to hear from you. The comment section is down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. So last week I reviewed episode 26 of Hamster and Gretel, and today, I'm going to be reviewing episode 27. 27A of Hamster and Gretel is Shush Hour, and 27B is I Was a Teenage Mad Scientist. So, in Shush Hour, basically the overarching plot is Gretel needs to write an essay on her hero. So she decides to write about herself because Bailey can't write about superhero Gretel because apparently she's already done that 6 times already. No surprise there. But anyhow, so Kevin brings her to the library because she procrastinated a whole week and has to do it all in one day now. And the library, is actually evil and is obsessed with noise and shushing everyone, so she buys a shushinator off of the evil shopping network from, a Phineas and Ferb character, Dr. Doofenshmirtz. I was like, when I heard the name, did she get that from Doof? And then we get to see the ad that she saw. Yep, it was him. Of course it was. But yeah, so that's actually technically now his second appearance in Hamster and Gretel. Because he did appear in Strawberry Fields Forever as a kind of background character. Just, side character to fill out the scene, but also as a Easter egg. Well, again, the same thing here, but a little more directed to the plot, I would say. But you know what? Kevin actually saves the day pretty much all by himself. He finds a book about sound, and he uses that to his advantage to destroy the Shushinator, and then Gretel comes in and I don't know why I can't say incapacitated the librarian, and the police takes the librarian away, and Gretel gets all the attention. But you know what? Or all the recognition. But you know what? Gretel changes her essay to be about Kevin, which actually that makes good sense, because her personal hero is, when you really think about it, Kevin. Of course, she didn't use any sources, and apparently Kevin wasn't on the list, so she only got a C. So that's still better than you would expect. And then, I Was a Teenage Mad Scientist. Well, we figure out what Professor Exclamation has been doing. Not quite sure, but he developed a tracker to find some unbendium as part of his plan to destroy Hamster and Gretel and take over the world. And apparently it's right beneath his old high school, which is the same high school Kevin goes to, and his father went to. Go figure. The gym is kind of destroyed at the end, but you know what? that's about it. Because he actually kind of succeeds. And they don't know what he's doing, but it's kind of funny. Apparently, when he was in high school, he was known for juggling, and everyone thought he was going to stay good forever. Turns out that was not the case. But I do kind of very much like that juxtaposition. Also, I think the high school's mascot changed because we know in the present of the episode that the mascot is the plumbers. But when we see Kevin's dad's old yearbook, it says Go Bantams on it. Which, that's probably a reference all the way back to I feel like a previous episode. But so I think the high school changed its name. Interesting. I have a feeling that's not going to play any role, but I think it's more relevant to the ongoing plot, wherever Professor Exclamation is up to. And I have a feeling Nord is going to be very important in stopping him because only 2 episodes ago, it was established that, yes, he cares about his father, but that's not who effectively raised him. Tobor was the one, the robot. And there's a few other things, so I do wonder how this is all going to play a role. But you know what, we just got wait and see, but I would love to hear your thoughts on these 2 episodes. After a break for the new year, I am back with my reviews of Hamster and Gretel. Today I'll be reviewing episode 28. 28A being Too Many Crooks, and 28B being President Fred. So 28A, Too Many Crooks, opens up with Gretel and Bailey being on a field trip at the zoo, and they're seeing the polar bears, and apparently the tour guide has lots of rules for them, including a book. Of course, there's a robbery going on, so Gretel has to go leave to take care of it. And, well, Kevin and Hamster are not feeling well, so they're part of the episode, and we get to see them basically trying to one-up each other and describing how they feel. But yeah, they just do that the entire episode every time we cut back to them, which is funny, and I really do like that gag. But anyhow, the villain that Gretel actually has to face in this episode is basically a self-duplicating villain, called Mary Mitosis, I believe, if I remember correctly. But basically, yeah, she's splitting herself. And she found out that whenever Gretel punches her, there's some way to create heat that she can duplicate faster, and she doesn't have to go through the complicated process in the lab. So the episode ends with like over 100 of them. But it doesn't end though, because Gretel takes a moment to think before she punches. Took her 28 episodes, but she's finally learning to think before she acts. And so that is some good character growth, and all it took was Kevin and Hamster not being there to help her. But anyhow, she contacts Bailey to open up the roof of the polar bear habitat, so that way she can drop the villain into the polar bear habitat where it's colder, so that way so that the heat can counteract, or the cold can counteract the heat, and she can remerge, and that's what works. So by just taking that moment to actually think, she comes up with a plan, and she doesn't need Kevin and Hamster. She just still does make it clear though that she's not going to go solo, which is probably a good thing because it took her 28 episodes to figure that out, so it's probably going to take another 28 more before she actually truly learns the lesson. Plus, come on, teamwork is always better in my opinion. Also, in Too Many Crooks, they have a whole sequence between Bailey and then the zoo's tour guide, which is just a straight up parody of the duel between Anakin and Obi-Wan in Star Wars episode 3. It was just amazing. Like you wouldn't think that was going to work. No, it works perfectly, and it is awesome and amazing. And then 28B, President Fred. So basically, there's an election for student body president, and the opponent is literally called Chad Golden Boy, who was born rich and is just rich, and apparently his fame has always been winning the student body presidents. And then so Kevin imposed Fred to run, because after there's a change going on with Fred in this, but it's not really, because just a previous villain, the one who can, I forget the character's name, but the one who basically can mimic / impersonate almost anyone, basically replaces Fred in order to get revenge on Chad Golden Boy for upstaging him in the audition for a one night only senior citizen center play. I mean, talk about a petty villain. But anyhow, Fred frees herself from the escape room that she was basically tricked into entering. Took her 4 days. Man, that's talk about an escape room. Maybe the villain should actually start running escape rooms if he can create escape rooms so good it takes 4 days. I think people would pay good money for that. But no, he just wanted revenge. But literally, and there comes to a point where Hamster and Gretel, but mostly Gretel, like, which one do we go after? Because, it's hard to tell when someone is disguised as somebody with a very effective disguise. It turns the zipper starts coming. That's just weird. Anyhow. Basically, when Fred mentioned that, basically how she despises power and how power corrupts, Gretel knew which one was the real Fred and which one wasn't, and literally punches the villain out of his disguise that he was wearing to disguise himself as Fred. Literally, out of the suit. It is crazy. And also weird. Like, literally, when the suit falls in front of Chad going boy, he literally basically runs away, almost faints, but not quite. It's just crazy. But yeah, so that's the episode. It's a fun episode. Really, both parts are great fun. I do think I like Too Many Cooks better, mainly because of the character development that we get for Gretel, but both I think were solid, excellent episodes, and I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. So I've watched the 29th episode of Hamster and Gretel, 29A being Flake It Till You Make It, and 29B being Game Changer. So both of these are two pretty good episodes. There's only one more episode to go before the season ends, so we'll talk about that next week, but let's actually finish talking about this week's episodes, even though I'm a couple weeks behind the air dates, but that's besides the point. So in Flake It Till You Make It, well, the villain is called the Flake, and he's always late. Every time he says he's going to attack someplace, he's always late. Go figure. And apparently Gretel is a bit of a flake in some regards, too often being late, getting distracted, or going to places. And that's how she figures out how to defeat. Figures out what's going to distract him on his way to his next target, and they're able to intercept him. It's quite a good episode. Also has the nice heartfelt scene at the end between Gretel and her father at a father-daughter dance. Like, some just great emotional stuff overall. But I would say Game Changer probably had some more actual long-term development going on, even though both did to a certain extent, like Gretel recognizing an aspect of herself that she has a tendency to get distracted and be late for things. Point for her to recognize. Didn't really seem like it was actually going to play that much into future stories and changing any status quo. Just feel like insight into her, but also get a heartwarming scene with her father at the end. But Game Changer, on the other hand, does I think have more of a change to the status quo, because there's essentially two main plots. You have the villain plot and then the emotional plot, and they're not connected. I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah. So, but just to kind of summarize, so Kevin, Fred, Anthony, and Hiromi are all playing video games, and then they find that's suspicious, and so they go, of course, and fall into the trap. It is a trap. It's not really trying to test people, to get people to test video games, well, it is, but the reward is not what they want. No, because from way back earlier in Season 1, specifically Season 1, Episode 11B, Sleepover is the Enemy, so the villain Tina returns, which is quite crazy. No, she returns in this episode. She and her best friend and their gerbil are trying to capture people to be beta testers for her teeny tiny country's very bad off video game industry, because they actually managed to make a game, but they had terrible beta testers. It's quite hilarious. And how does the story get solved? Oh, quite simple enough. Apparently, their country's decommissioned Dockyard Harbor Claw training machine is just like a claw game. So guess what? That's how it's solved. But also, then the crux of not the crux of the episode per se, but the emotional crux of the episode has to do with Kevin's feelings for Hiromi and him being nervous about asking her out. Pretty much as soon as it was pretty early on in the episode that we realized that, yep, this is going to be the episode where it's going to change the nature of their friendship, taking it to a dating level. Now, who knows how things will develop from here, but the status quo has changed, because at the end of the episode, after having a couple of, daydreams where he imagines the worst possible things happening, some of them are quite hilarious. I mean, really quite hilarious, but Kevin finally overcomes his fears and begins to ask Hiromi out on a date. Now, he's still struggling, still being nervous, and she does basically ask, "Are you asking me out?" And everything comes out at the end, well, no, she agrees to go on a date, so we don't see that, obviously. Maybe that's going to be in the next episode, or maybe they're just going to leave that off for season 2, who knows. But the status quo has changed. The relationship has changed. And that's why I think I like Game Changer a bit better than Fake It Till You Make It. Yes, we did learn a little bit more about Gretel and had a heartwarming moment for father, but it didn't change the status quo. It wasn't, if you will, a game changer. Hence the title of 29B Game Changer. The status quo didn't change early on, but now it has, so it's a game changer for the status quo. I think I over-explained that. Did that really need that much explanation? Well, I guess I gave it to you anyhow. But that's all I got for you today. I would love to hear your thoughts on this episode in the comment section down below, both parts of it. And do you agree that this is a big change in the status quo? Because I feel like it is. It is time for my review of the 30th episode of Hamster and Gretel, which is also the final episode of Season 1. Exclamation Strikes Back, Parts 1 and 2. So this is a 2-part episode, very much like episode 10 UFO No was, but unlike that one, there's no unlike, I don't know why I said that, but just like this one, I'll be talking about both parts interchangeably. But for this, I just gotta say, this was a exciting episode, and come on, the title has to be a parody of Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back. In the fight with Dr. Exclamation, there's literally a point, because he has a big power suit, like a big ATST, well, they string a wire for him to trip on. I mean, come on, the AT&Ts were also tripped using a trip wire, so I think there's some intentional paralleling going on there. But so yeah, so to go back to kind of the beginning of the episode, Gretel and Hamster are getting the key to the city, so they're being rewarded for all their work helping defeat the villains. Makes sense, you know, all that stuff. And Kevin has his first date with Hiromi. Of course, things don't go well because Dr. Exclamation captures Kevin to lure Hamster and Gretel into a trap, which works. And Kevin knew it was a trap, obviously, and Gretel just comes in and doesn't listen to his warning. Like, okay, in 29B Flake Into the Make It, we saw a little bit of character development from Gretel, but she still has to learn to think things through a bit more. She still got some work to do on that. And then, of course, Dr. Exclamation tries to take over the city and thus the war. Way more ambitious than Dr. Doof from Phineas and Ferb, who just set it for the tri-state area. But you know what? They both fail. But I just had to bring that up because it's this. And because a running gag in this episode is every now and then the camera cuts back to the diner where Kevin and Hiromi were going to go out on their date, and she's just sitting there waiting for him. He actually arrived first, but that's where he was captured. But anyway, she's just sitting there waiting, oblivious to everything going on with you know, the conflict, you know. And they even runs by the diner a few times. And that reminded me a lot of the gag in Phineas and Ferb Night of the Living Pharmacist, where Stacy is just totally oblivious to, I guess you could say, the zombie apocalypse, all the people turning into copies of Doofs that can really only say, "Lots of me!" I hope I impersonated that right. But like, literally, it just reminded me that I totally not knowing what's going on. Like, how do you not notice it? No, you're waiting, you're checking your phone, you don't see somebody tweeting, "Super villain attacking City Hall, forcing people to destroy it with sledgehammers." Like, how is that not making social media? Granted, no, she could have just been reading a book she downloaded on her phone too, so of course she wouldn't see it then. But it's like, it's a funny gag, but when you think about it, it's like, it's not really, it doesn't make that much sense. But obviously, it's the funny gag, that's the reason why they did it. And you know what? Sometimes you may be playing on your phone, but you're not playing on social media, you're not getting the news. But yeah. But they do win, because they have all the confiscated supervillain stuff, which is a nice callback to a previous episode where they had to go through it and they don't get rid of any. Good thing, because they needed it, because Dr. Automation had a machine that zapped Hamster and Gretel of all their powers. And Hamster once lost of his powers, no longer could speak. Which, oh come on, probably, why? Obviously to make a gut punch. But anyhow, they do defeat Dr. Exclamation. The key to the city was actually made of unbendium, so that allowed them, it gave them an opportunity to destroy Dr. Exclamation's power suit. And they win, and Hamster and Gretel get their powers back and all. And Gretel saves Kevin from falling after, he's the one who jumps up to destroy Dr. Exclamation's super suit, but he's sent flying off the cliff. Good thing Gretel gets her powers back, and then she flies him to his date with Hiromi, but unfortunately, it's pretty much already over, and she politely breaks off, saying it's not going to work. But if she knew what was going on, she probably would have a changed mind. If you really like her, Kevin, tell her about your sister. I'm just saying, so many times in superhero shows, comics, not revealing a secret identity to a significant other destroys the relationship. Well, it's not quite the same here. Come on. Probably needs to be done. But again, the status quo is changed for season 2. And in many ways, yes, their date failed, but the relationship is still nowhere it was before. And so things could go many different ways. So the status quo for season 2 is already different. Not to mention, the aliens show up again and warning Hamster and Gretel that there's gonna be bigger and tougher villains in the next season. And the aliens do use season, and then, you have, summer, winter, spring, fall. Okay, that's a good joke. But they also did that joke in Mammoth Bizarre. And you know what? It's still fun both times, those things. Because you got different seasons, running late in the season. But it's all about playing on how television season and winter or summer and the seasons. So I do have to say, that joke won't work as well in the UK because they typically use series instead of season for seasons of the show. At least they do for Thomas and Friends. I presume they do it for other shows as well. But anyhow, so status quo has changed. But there's one other very funny gag I have to mention. During a chase scene where Dr. Exclamation is chasing Kevin's minivan, he opens, actually it might have been Fred, opens up the glove compartment, and there's the script for the season finale of Hamster and Gretel. Literally, it says Hamster and Gretel season finale. It's hilarious, and they saw it to try to stop him. Doesn't work. But also that corresponds, it's also further enhanced by the fact of the chase song, basically, the fight song, where the line is, I forget the exact tone, but it's basically commenting on the script. And honestly, I love those kinds of fourth wall breaks that just don't make any sense to characters in the universe, but those who are making the break know exactly what they're doing. I mean, it's just good. I love a good fourth wall break, especially when it's a fourth wall break that us, the audience, gets to laugh at, but the characters are like, what? Now, when the characters do it, it's also funny, but those are just sometimes the funnier ones. So that covers the general plot summary and lots of elements. I like how the status quo has changed for season 2, and I really do like the status quo changing. While the episodes are largely, episodic, it is still a serialized storytelling with one story over a long time, but each individual episode is largely set apart by itself. Yes, there is some overlap, like this episode calls back to everything Dr. Exclamation has done, and episode 10 UFO, where the Destructress and Fist Puncher find out Hamster and Gretel's weakness. And by the way, they do team up with Dr. Exclamation here. But one thing to note, the Destructress, Lauren, when Gretel doesn't have her powers, she's just a kid, because she doesn't want to punch just a kid. Imagine she figured out that Gretel was Gretel. The girl that she's babysitting so she can have some legitimate money instead of just, supervillain money that always use when they get caught. I do wonder how that will go. I really do wonder. I was wondering if that was going to come into play in the episode, but it looks like it never did. But that's okay, because there's a season 2, hopefully, and that might be a plot point there, or may not, we don't know. But it could be quite interesting to find out. But anyhow, another kind of interesting thing in how the serialized story is building up our previous episodes, the episode of the Council of Doom, with the umlauts over the U, and so D-U-M with umlauts. Anyhow, one interesting thing there is what Dr. Exclamation did with the supervillains is he wanted to capture them so they wouldn't pose a threat to his plans. No, he didn't want competition. But something interesting to note, because of that, he does not see the Destructress or Fist Puncher as competition since he was willing to work with them for this episode. Barely, but still. And offers them, a section in New Jersey, which they might have lost because the Destructress didn't want to, punch a depowered Gretel. Interesting. Does make me wonder how their characters are going to develop as well. Let's see, is there anything else to discuss? Callbacks to previous episodes, I'll mention how the serious story. But honestly, I do like where the episodes are largely, episodic, not connected, but there's always an element here and there that connects up to the greater story. That's honestly, I think, a good way of doing a overarching story. Yeah, sometimes you can do one overarching story, like Star Wars Andor, Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi does, but sometimes I like, this approach, which is more like the Star Trek Strange New Worlds approach, is each episode is largely set apart, but there are some through threads of an overarching thread or character development. I like getting a little that as well. And for some shows, it's all basically what the show is. But sometimes also it's just fun to have some fun episodic stuff as well, which unfortunately we don't get that too much. But the Friends and Foot Revival should get us just some fun episodic adventures. Should, but you know what? Even the Friends and Foot had a touch of character development. And you know what? Character development is the best type of thing to carry on across a show in my opinion. But that's all I have for you today. I would love to hear your thoughts on Exclamation Strikes Back. Let me know in the comment section down below. So that concludes my review of Season 1 of Hamster and Gretel, created by Dan Povenmire, who's the same person behind Phineas and Ferb, Malice and Murphy's Law, so we knew it was going to be good, and you know what? It was good. No surprise there. I do hope, though, Disney treats it better than they treated Madame Murphy's Law, which got, not cancelled, just after the second season, Disney just stopped caring about it, didn't renew it for a third season, but they didn't cancel it either. I still hope we can get more Madame Murphy's Law, because I loved it. I probably like Madame Murphy's Law personally, more than Hamster and Gretel. I actually think I also like Madame Murphy's Law better than Phineas and Ferb as well. And sure, I could say, let's get back on track to talking about Hamster and Gretel, but when you're talking about reviews, looking back what you like, sometimes you do have to make those comparisons, and of the 3 shows that I've watched that Dan Povenmire has been involved in, I do think Madame Murphy's Law is my personal favorite, so definitely Phineas and Ferb is Disney's favorite. But you know what, even though the shows are all different their own way, Phineas and Ferb relied much more on a floating timeline with no real set continuity, while Madame Murphy's Law and Hamster and Gretel, there is more of a continuity going on. Though it seems like Hamster and Gretel, maybe to appease Disney, is making things a little more consistent into continuity, though Madame Murphy's Law was consistent, it's just the big bad kept on changing from season to season for all practical purposes. But that's kind of besides the point, because all of these shows were good, and Hamster and Gretel, like I said, is a great show as well. I love the humor. The humor is all kind of the same vein, which makes sense. You get some of the same minds behind it, so of course it's going to be pretty good. And in all honesty, Hamster and Gretel probably had some of the best fourth wall jokes. I love a good fourth wall joke where either people know it's a fourth wall joke in universe or they don't. But I think it's best when some do and some don't, and they had a couple good ones like that in Hamster and Gretel, and I really just love that type of fourth wall breaking humor where one character knows and the other character doesn't, but sometimes they do know, but sometimes they don't know, sometimes it's a weird mixture of the two, and they're just funny. I just like a good fourth wall joke, and I don't really care how, as long as it's not lazy. But you know what, that's where I'm going to end my review, so I do hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What did you think of Hamster and Gretel? I would love to hear from you. And of course, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. Have a good one. Bye! Thank you for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to give this video a like, as well as subscribe to my channel and ring that bell to stay up to date on my latest content. Also, be sure to check out the link tree in the description, as well as any other links I have down there.